Thank you very much. All right, we're going to get the platform set up for the MAHA presentation, Make America Healthy Again. And we're going to put the chairs right up here, close to the front here, because we want to make sure the folks to our left are able to see that. Very good. All right, the banner. Thank you, brother. All right, so we're going to introduce the 3 guest speakers for our roundtable here. First, we have Miss Amy Miller, also known as a mom on a mission. Come on in, thank you. She's going to sort of moderate this for the group. And she's going to introduce herself a little bit more, and also the rest of our guest here for the roundtable. Also want to introduce Mr. Howard Vlieger. Come on, Mr. Vlieger. You're going to hear more about all 3 of them. And I tell you, all 3 of these folks are warriors. Now I'd like to introduce to the platform Dr. Denise Sibley. Thank you. All right, so as they get situated here, we're going to give them a couple of mics, and they're going to get started and tell you a little bit more about yourselves. Remember, for the speakers, we're going to ask you to make sure you come to the green room at least 20 minutes or about 20 minutes before your presentation time. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. Am I okay standing over here? I'll keep it a little bit. Okay. I have 2 special guests with me today, but I am Amy Miller from the MAHA Institute. And if you were here last year, we talked about reforming pharma, and this year we are reforming pharma. So the MAHA Institute is an organization where we're working basically to fix America's broken healthcare system. So we are very policy-driven. We like to do roundtables so that people can get educated and amplify what it is that we're trying to speak on collectively. We just did an autism roundtable. It is a national group, the MAHA Institute, and we're in the states. I'm the director of states, so we are going into all of the states and developing state councils. And I'm proud to admit that we are in Tennessee. We have a state council. I'm a proud Tennessean myself, and we started our council, and what that does is we're basically empowering our states to make healthier policy choices. So with that, we will be holding people accountable. We're going to be connecting a lot of the organizations here. We're a bottom-up organization. We are not a top-down. So we come in and help the states with organizations that are already here. We're not trying to steal bandwidth. We're not trying to come in and tell the states what to do. My passion, obviously, is Tennessee. I've been in this for 10 years. My daughter was discriminated against because we did not vaccinate her. So I've been on a journey for a very long time. I've seen the shift in the legislative arena. I've seen it go from don't talk about the V word to, well, we might want to have some vaccine legislation, but not this year. Don't get that close. And now we actually have legislators that call, and I just got 2 this week. What can we do about changing the legislative atmosphere for vaccines, and MAHA, I will say, is pretty popular right now, as you guys know. The MAHA movement, we're trying to get people healthier in various ways, and it's the grassroots. It's always the grassroots. We don't wait for the government to change everything. It's the grassroots that's going to change, and we know that, and we believe it. And that's what I do want to tell you. We had a roundtable in Tennessee, in Dunlap, and if you want to get in the know, we have a MAHA Substack that gives basically the download of what's happening with MAHA around the country. It gives the tips in a very fast manner. But if you go to, it's mahadailybrief.substack.com, or you can just Google MAHA Daily Brief, and you can get signed up, or on our website, and it'll tell you. But the Dunlap event was based off of the pesticide legislation and understanding what it means to have healthier food, farming and food. So we held that. We also we actually partnered with a wellness farm. I don't know if you guys are familiar or not, but Farm 58, just outside of Chattanooga, they have basically reforming men who have addiction or trauma issues. They use food, they have God, food, and work, the necessities of life, and they're transforming men into productive citizens that actually are completely reformed. They have a very high level of true reform. And so we partnered with them, and they gave us an awesome, amazing lunch. That event was videoed, and it was free to the public. That event was videoed, and it will be on our website soon. It's in the editing phase right now, but I wanted to tell you about that. That happened right here in Tennessee. Let's see. Okay, so what is MAHA? So people keep asking, what is MAHA exactly? We know some of the things. Well, there's 10 categories that were based on the federal information that came from the secretary. They're chronic disease, fitness, vaccines, chemical exposure, farming, nutrition, water, drugs and medication, mental health and addiction, and autism. So those are the issues that we will be working on in the state to make people healthy again. Make America healthy, make Tennessee healthy again. So today, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Denise Sibley on a couple things that are MAHA-friendly, MAHA-aligned legislation that we've done in Tennessee, and kind of get a taste of what's going to happen in the future, next year. And then I have Howard Vlieger. He is, wow, I learn every time I'm with this man. He's a student of the soil, and he's also, you have to come visit us at the Firehawk booth. He's going to tell us a little bit more about Firehawk. But I'd like to introduce them and get started with Dr. Denise Sibley and ask a few questions. So I'm going to sit down with you. And it's getting exciting because things are actually turning and moving, I will say. We still have our problems, but how exciting. We can join forces with a lot of people. So Dr. Sibley, I want to brag on Dr. Sibley. If you don't know who she is, she's helped over 12,000 patients from COVID vaccine injuries to just vaccine injured to sickness, chronic diseases, and cancer. And it's all been for free. So she has dedicated her life serving what God has called you to do. So can you tell a little bit more about that?
Yes, I'm Dr. Denise Sibley. I'm an internal medicine physician. I've been at it, it will be 40 years that I've graduated from medical school at University of Virginia next year. And I've been in Johnson City, Tennessee. I was a regular doctor, should I say, until 2020 when COVID opened my eyes. And if I was deceived, I started to see the deception. I was not deceived. But I started to see the deception, and I said, if they've done this with COVID, what else have they deceived me about? And that began my journey into everything. And boy, have I learned a lot. And then in 2022, got involved with this wonderful woman and Bernadette Pager and others, and started going to Nashville, where we got the first ivermectin without a prescription bill passed in 2022. And we have medical tourism related to ivermectin in Tennessee. We have over 50 pharmacies in our network. You can go to DeniseSibleyMD.com and push under the ivermectin tab to see. Don't look for Walmart and Walgreens. It's going to be private pharmacies, but there's over 1,000 prescriptions a week that go out from these pharmacies for people to be helped with ivermectin. It has many uses. It was FDA approved in 1987, so it's old, like me. So it's a very safe drug. And so I started with that, and within 2 weeks of passing that into law, my board of internal medicine that certifies me as a specialist in internal medicine came after me to censor me. And a 2-year battle then ensued in which they said I was a misinformation spreader and I was hurting people and it culminated in them taking my board certification, which doesn't really affect me unless I was getting paid by insurance or hospitals, which I'm not getting paid, so I still have my license, and so it was a big endeavor, and it's terrible to be punished for the truth, and everything I said was truth, and it's still truth, and we all know it now. It's come out, and actually they colluded, the American Board of Internal Medicine colluded with the government and the CDC at that time to quiet physicians like me. But anyway, so I also made a name for myself for, being one that testified about the geoengineering bill in 2024. We were the first state to ban geoengineering. Now, did it stop it? No, we did not have great enforcement, but give us some time, and we'll continue to work on that. But we'll get with that.
Well, one of the things, first of all, thank you for being so bold and continuing to be bold and stand firm, because it's, at the end of the day, you may not have that certification, but you do have patients that you're saving.
And I have God's grace on me.
That's priority. One of the bills that I want to talk about that you kept getting further and further deep down the legislative rabbit hole, right? One of them was the food dye bill. And as we know, that's a huge MAHA issue. Before MAHA was MAHA. There's some dyes right there made in Tennessee. What did the food dye bill do? And where is it at now?
Okay, so the food dye bill, it mainly involved red number 40, which is known to be not only a carcinogen, but more importantly for our schools, the bill worked so that in 2027, schools must transition into all food that they produce, that is school breakfast, lunch, snack, and after school things, must have removal of red 40. And why is that? Because red 40 has neuropsychological implications for children, not just neuroatypical, that is autistic and ADHD children, but it affects their behavior, their learning, the teacher's ability to control behavior, and it's been long known, and it's been banned in other places, say Europe, for example, California, and so we took that one on as a test case, a red number 40, because we have so many neuroatypical students in school, and there's such behavioral issues, there's learning issues, there's taxpayer issues, and so that was the first one we tackled. We will have a bill this year that includes all 6 of the food dyes that are in that M&Ms. I brought that as a prop. It was back there. I did not bring it myself because I don't eat them, but it's a prop because it contains every single one of the abnormal food dyes. My daughter went to a restaurant and ordered a soup in her local community, and it had yellow 5 in it, in a soup, a chicken soup, because this restaurant thought that would enhance the look of the soup. So these food dyes are everywhere. They do have carcinogenic. That means it can cause cancer, but it affects the developing fetus inside of a mother. It develops the brain. It affects the development of brains of children. It affects their ability to concentrate and learn. And it is a huge taxpayer burden, a fiscal burden, let's say.
Well, and the legislators don't like fiscal burdens,
right? Yeah, fiscal
right?
burden. Yeah. But it's not good to have artificial dyes just so something looks snazzy. And we know that in the European Union, they've removed them and replaced them, the same exact product, with natural dyes, like roots and root vegetables, beets, and that kind of thing. Carrots.
Yeah, I do remember that. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at, this is a MAHA win. We're going to get better and better and better. And one of the things MAHA Institute is going to be putting out is a MAHA Institute report. So that report is going to have an assessment of what our state is doing, whether it's good or bad. It will be assessed on that report. That report will be given nationally. So hopefully Tennessee will kick it up a notch and start doing the right thing and not stopping just before big industry says, we can't do that. We need to be bold and we need to take action. And I know a lot of the legislators are looking to MAHA themselves this year. And I'm trying to think, I got a few calls from legislators saying, how do we make sure that we're MAHAing this year? And my answer to that was actually, you need to start from the top and you need to get to the bottom. And you need to go all the way through and you need to vote for making people healthy again, not just in committee and then voting to fail on the floor. They need to go all the way through and they need to back it. And it's not just for a vote, it's because you're passionate about it and you truly want what's best for the American people and especially us as Tennesseans. So, okay, well, let's talk about vaccines.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so vaccine injured, we just heard on the autism report, vaccine injured people, they need to be recognized. They have been pushed to the side, made fun of, and told that, some of them actually told me their physicians said it was all mental and it was crazy. So at this time, we have got to start recognizing the vaccine injured. And not only do we have to start recognizing them, but we have to do something about it. We don't just recognize and say, okay, move on our merry way. We have a crisis here. And how do you, I guess, what do you say to that? Because many patients you've treated many patients with these injuries. Can you tell us what's their livelihood like? And I think we know it's not easy. And I'm sure we have vaccine injured parents or vaccine injured people out in the audience. What do you see? What needs to change?
Well, as President Trump in his recent press announcement with all of the heads of the health leadership said, we're looking at all the toxins, okay? We're looking at food dyes. We're looking at the things that fall from the sky. We're looking at things that are injected. We're looking at things you eat. So this goes along with the whole toxin agenda of looking at what is going into a child's body from conception to adulthood. And, they listed Tylenol was a thing. Okay, so yeah, that's not a great thing. But I think the vaccine is actually injected into, it has much more access into your body. And we know right now by the CDC that the rate of autism is 1 in 31, and this was a poll among 8-year-olds, or a CDC study of 8-year-olds, 1 in 31. 2 years ago, it was 1 in 36. When I was growing up, it was unheard of. We had no autistic children we had no peanut allergies. We had no asthmatics. We had no type 1 diabetics. I'm 65 years old. There were none of those. So what's happened? And it can't be genetics. Genetics does not operate that quickly. So the toxins injected are the culprit. And I will tell you right now, there is not one shot in the adult, prenatal, mothers-to-be, childhood. There's not one shot. And I dare not say vaccine because most of them aren't vaccines. They don't stop transmission or disease. There is not one shot where the benefit outweighs the risk. And I have done a deep dive on these things. So did I partake of them before 2020? Absolutely. Absolutely. My last vaccine was in 2019. I was a true believer. I gave them, I took them. What changed me? Why am I now 180 degrees different? Well, it's because of what I've read and learned and experienced, if you really want to get into it, that this is a toxic exposure. And just when my children were come up, the vaccine schedule has tripled. So there's, 28 vaccines within the first year of life? That's insane. Health doesn't come in a syringe. And many mothers are realizing this. I have 63% of new parents questioning shots. Now, I'm not saying they're not giving them, but they're questioning them. Now, what that would be termed in the medical literature vaccine hesitancy. And that's a bad thing for public health. Vaccine hesitancy means you're hesitant to take a vaccine. Well, you know what the cause of vaccine hesitancy is? I just heard this yesterday, and I'm borrowing it. I'm sorry. The cause of vaccine hesitancy is reality.
That is true.
Because we
waking
just
up.
had a 13-year-old in my community that died within the last 10 days. Sudden death. Now, has that ever happened before? I have some of my favorite doctors in my community that have died. I have multiple young people that have died. I had 29-year-olds, 42-year-olds, 32-year-olds. I mean, I have so many people that have died from these shots. And so reality says, you see it. It is real. I can read, and I know the mechanism. So
Well, and we also know vaccine hesitancy was a marketing plan. Industry, AAP, it was hired as a, label that terminology and get that out there to make sure that that was shined in a negative light. But so we have the problem. What are some solutions? And one of the solutions that I would like to see, and it's not the end-all be-all, but we have a autism council in the state of Tennessee. The General Assembly passed it like a decade ago, and I did a little digging on there. There's no vaccine-injured parent on that council. I'd like to see a vaccine-injured parent on that council so that they're being represented in the state, and that's something that we're going to push this year.
absolutely, we need to listen to the parents. Actually, hashtag listen to moms, has been put out there. I've seen it on bumper stickers, and I'm going to get one too. Listen to moms. Listen to the vaccine injured. Just observe. I took my car in to get a 15,000-mile service. There were 3 autistic young men working there. I mean, they obviously could work some. It was obviously, I'm not saying that they're less than, but we do not have a military. We do not have possible employment. Some of these are severely vaccine injured, and that's mainly talking about the childhood vaccine, but where I live is COVID vaccine. I have more healthcare workers than ever that are on permanent disability in their 30s, 40s, 50s because of these shots. I have never had so many disability claims. So something is happening, and they're talking about, why is this happening? Why do we have a shortage? Well, guess what? That community of healthcare workers were mandated by CMS to participate. So what else can you do? Speak up. It's not enough to just sit there. You have to speak up. I carry a stack of books in my car, Facts, or Vaxxed Unvaxxed by Hooker and Kennedy, or Vaxxed Facts by Paul Thomas, or The Vaccine Timeline, or any of these books that now characterize this vaccination scheme as a religion, which is true. Aaron Siri, Vaccine Amen, and Peter McCullough, Vaccine Ideology and Mythology and Religious. It's a religion. So speak up. And in Tennessee, do you know that there are religious exemptions for K through 12 and higher education? There is no reason that someone says, well, I had to.
Well, and I think one of the big things too, turning after the exemption, but we want to go big and we want to do what Florida's doing and get rid of all the mandates. That's what we really should be doing. So please support that idea this year in the General Assembly as we go and try, and also pay attention to governor races and find out who really wants to do that as well. So thank you, Dr. Sibley. Thank you for all that you do. We're going to pass it over to Howard now, the student of the soil, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, but how we got started. After you introduce yourself, Howard, I'll talk about that and then ask you my questions.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here and share some information with you today. The good Lord put me on a journey of a lifetime in 1989. That's when I became a student of the soil. I have no problem admitting the more I know I don't know on many subjects. And in 1989 is when we transitioned our family farm in northwest Iowa to what was known as alternative at that time. Today it's known as regenerative. In 1992, I started working as a crop and livestock nutrition advisor. I have been blessed to work with family farmers across the U.S. and Canada. In 1994, I started studying GMO crops. In 1997, I started doing on-farm research. In 2008, I coordinated a scientific study that didn't get published until 2013, where we fed non-GMO corn and soy and GMO corn and soy to pigs for their lifetime as a meat animal. And we documented the ill health effects that we were witnessing in the animals that were consuming the GMO feedstuffs. I have been blessed to work with some of the top scientists and researchers from literally around the world on the GMO, glyphosate, glufosinate, and other chemical damaging effects, incidents, and continue to do research in that space in addition to having a small participation in our family farm. My son manages most of the duties of our farm. We direct market beef, pork, chicken, turkey, lamb, eggs. When I am home, I do milk a cow by hand every morning because my grandkids have grown up on real milk.
I'll interrupt because that's true. Howard will call me in the morning and I'll say, Howard, you milking a cow? I can hear that. So he's a real farmer doing real things, and that's one of the things that I've been asked. Are you bringing in people who are real farmers? You can't speak on this unless you're a real farmer. Howard is the real deal. He gets his hands dirty, rolls up his sleeves. So one of the things that we did a couple years ago, a few years ago now, I met Howard on, he had a Contact Biosolutions Firehawk before Firehawk, right? He had a booth, and I met him, and I was like, I can't believe there's this pesticide that is healthy, like it won't kill you. Does it really work? But after that, we kind of, talked here and there, I guess. And then we have, I don't know how many of you guys, maybe a show of hands, how many of you guys know that there was pesticide legislation this year in Tennessee? You guys know? There's a lot of people who don't know. Okay, so pesticide legislation happened around the country. Tennessee was hit with that, knowing how much agriculture we have here. We were one of the prime states, and that legislation was trying to give a liability shield to the pesticide companies, mimicking the vaccine industry. And that is not good at all. So if they harm any chemicals that are registered now and in the future, there would not be, there's just a immunity factor there. There's a liability shield. So it gets really a lot more complicated than that, but they kept saying, oh, you can still sue, you can still sue. Well, anybody can put up a lawsuit, but is it gonna be viable? And the answer was no. So a bunch of people teamed up together. We learned about more freedom fighters. We teamed up, and Howard even came down to help. He was fighting this in Iowa, and we stopped the bill this year. So that's a good thing. However, it's coming back next year. And we've been working very hard in the off season, so to speak, to educate individually the legislators that were voting. And some of them have actually changed their minds and will change their minds, we believe, in the future. So I'm not giving up, and we can't let down. But anyway, during that time frame, I had so many people ask, well, what can we use in the meantime? Well, we talked about the glyphosate and the GMO issue, and that's what I want to ask you, Howard. You have so much knowledge with your testing and your hands-on experience. Can you talk a little bit about the testing of the pigs when you fed them GMO versus non-GMO? What happened with that?
Well, between GMO and non-GMO, the thing that we were consistently seeing through the experiences of the customers that we were working with throughout multiple states in the Midwest. When their animals consumed the GMO feedstuffs, they consistently saw digestive issues and reproductive issues. So, and this was happening over multiple years. And in 2003, I shared this, what I was calling coincidental circumstantial information with Dr. Elaine Ingham when I took her classes. And she said, no, Howard, this is anecdotal. Now you need to set up a scientific study, do the protocols, and see if you can prove what you've seen. I was blessed to connect with Dr. Judy Carmen from Australia. She was the lead scientist on her study. We took 168 pigs and divided them evenly by sex and by weight, put them into 4 groups, drew numbers out of the hat, and they were fed non-GMO corn and soy rations and GMO corn and soy rations for their lifetime as a meat animal. And then when we harvested them, we did complete necropsies on them. 2 licensed practice veterinaries basically analyzed every part of the body. We weighed what was capable of weighing. The 2 statistical facts were, number 1, the pigs that consumed the GMO feed had a 260% increased likelihood of severe inflammation in their stomach. And a picture you see of a red stomach will stick in your mind compared to a healthy pig stomach that's skin tone color. The other statistical finding we've had was the weight of the utera of the GM-fed female was 25% abnormally heavy in the GM-fed group compared to the non-GM. We didn't have the money to do the histological analysis to really drill down on that, but we found 2 body parts that were connected with digestion and reproduction. The thing we didn't anticipate was the behavioral differences. Dr. Pustai was one of my mentors, and he said, you have to weigh these pigs every week. So we did. The pigs that were on the non-GMO feed went through this simple practice easily and without hassle. We set up a simple maze. They'd run them through take them out of their pen, run them through the simple maze every week and write down their number and their weight and let them go. The pigs in pen C and pen D couldn't navigate this simple maze on a regular basis. As soon as they got in confined quarters, they started fighting and biting and picking on one another. When they're back in their normal surroundings, they never exhibited the level of contentment that the other pigs did. Well, we couldn't even mention that in the study because we didn't anticipate it, so our protocol wasn't set up to document or measurement. Dr. Carmen went on to do 2 studies in rats, which will never be published because of her getting crossways with the university because she told the truth about GMOs. But I asked people the question, in 1996, before 85% of the processed foods in the grocery store contained ingredients from GMO crops, how many people did you know in our country that were on mood-altering medications for ADD, ADHD, and the like, compared to what it is today, when 85+% of the processed foods in the grocery store do contain the foreign proteins from GMO crops, in addition to the chemical residues that are used on raising those crops? Do you think it's contributing to the behavioral issues we have?
So that would be the genetically modified issue. Now the glyphosate issue, which going back to that legislation, those 2 things were discussed that they're not so harmful. The glyphosate, you talk about, can you talk about some of the harms of that, but also talk about how does glyphosate work really?
Glyphosate was first patented in 1964 as a broad-spectrum chelator. Chelate is a Greek word meaning claw or to hold. When you chelate a mineral, you make it biounavailable. Glyphosate chelates calcium, magnesium, manganese, zinc, iron, copper, nickel, cobalt, boron, selenium, molybdenum, and potassium, and does not let go. It was originally used as a pipe cleaner because we had all of these boiler systems in our country heating the homes and the schools, and the scale or the mineral deposits in the water would build up in the pipe. They'd run the glyphosate through and boom, it latches on to the minerals and it's gone. 1969, Monsanto patented it as a herbicide. It was put on the market as Roundup in 1972. In 2003, Monsanto patented it as an antimicrobial agent, and that patent was updated in 2010. You can search the U.S. patent website and type in patent number 7771736, and it'll take you right to it. And it'll show you the antimicrobial properties of it. In the soil, in the mammals, two-legged and four-legged, whenever it is present, it is going to have a diminishing effect on the beneficial organisms. It only takes 1/10 of a part per million of glyphosate residue to wipe out the lactobacillus, the enterococcus fecalis, and the bifidobacteria. Well, guess what? When you take those 3 beneficials out of the gut of the mammal, whether it's a cow, a pig, a chicken, or a human, you allow the opportunistic organisms to take over, the E. coli, the salmonella. 1/10 of a part per million will cause toxic co-infectious botulism in dairy cattle. It's been scientifically documented. Well, guess what? In people, 1/10 of a part per million of glyphosate and less, 1/10 of a part per billion was all it took to cause non-alcoholic fat or liver disease in a 2-year study that was conducted by Seralini and his crew. But the Crohn's disease, the ileitis, the irritable bowel syndrome, the leaky gut, the so-called gluten intolerance, it's glyphosate residue, folks. We can't get rid of this stuff tomorrow. We have to do it in a graduated process and plan, but it can be eliminated by implementing a regenerative farming approach. And the first thing that's got to happen is proper education. And I'll be the first to admit, I didn't know jack diddly squat about what I should have known when I was farming in 1989. I learned how to read my soil test, I learned what I needed, what I didn't need, and I continue to learn more. And the most important thing about the soil is the microbiome. If we don't have a healthy digestive system in the soil, the plants are sick, the animals are sick, and the people are sick.
So that's a good segue on what is one thing we can use to help the soil, to support the soil, and people like that are sitting in the audience.
In 2010, I had come to fully recognize and realize the necessity for a replacement for glyphosate-based herbicides. So I started trial and error on lots of different things myself. In 2015, the good Lord saw fit to connect me with a company from Australia. I started working with them on their efforts to make organic acids consistently effective as a contact herbicide. I started the U.S. division of the company in 2017, and then the regulatory process began. Anybody heard of an agency called EPA? You know what that means? Ensure pesticide applications. I can guarantee you that's what it means because I've witnessed it firsthand. That's what they do. They don't do anything to protect the environment. They ensure pesticide applications. Thankfully, we survived their attempts to kill us. And today we have Firehawk as our soil-friendly bioherbicide. We have combined the right organic acid, natural oil, wetting agent, emulsifier package. The mode of action is desiccation by dehydration. We have preliminary documentation, and we're doing additional scientific studies to support the hypothesis that we have that desiccation by dehydration is the mode of action of the product. The organic acid breaks down the waxy protective surface of the plant, allowing the nutrients and the moisture to escape and return to the soil, which is actually stimulating and improving the population of beneficial microbial activity in the soil. And when the good bug population goes up, the bad bug population goes down, just like happens in the gut. So we're getting there. We're going to be doing trials with a special spray technology coming into this fall and next spring with our next version of Firehawk that is more concentrated and more capable. And if we succeed, we will have a tool that regenerative farmers can use in broadacre production to terminate their cover crop before they plant their cash crop. It's been a long road.
So Firehawk has a booth in the back corner, and we also have T-shirts that say, "Don't treat your soil like dirt." So if you go back there, hopefully we can get some people. I don't know how many of you use Roundup, but a lot of people come up to the booth and say, "Well, I'm tired of the Dawn not working." So we have pictures too to show you how it works, and it does work. I'm a user of it. You guys are a user of it. So check it out. One last thing that I would like to, well, Howard, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we conclude? You have so many stories and so much wisdom.
Political. and I'm not going to get political in the sense that you think. How many people know what Ben Franklin said when he came out of the Constitutional Convention and they asked him, "What form of government do you have?" He said, "A constitutional republic." The only way a constitutional republic can function according to design is for the electorate, that's the people who vote and elect the politicians, for the electorate to be soundly educated in the true meaning of the Constitution and only elect representatives that will strictly adhere to the Constitution. If they don't strictly adhere to the Constitution, you hold their feet to the fire. If they don't snap their backside to attention, you vote them out and you elect somebody that will. The number one problem, in my opinion, politically in our country is the electorate has dropped the ball. Now, there's a lot of factors that play into this. The powers that be have purposely dumbed down our population. They took away training about Constitution in our education system. They have, because the electorate isn't doing its job, the special interests have stepped in and taken over. No elected candidate, whether it's president, whether it's an appointee in a cabinet position in Washington, D.C., none of them are going to solve our problem. The only way we're going to fix what's wrong in this country is for the people that go to the polls to look in the mirror and say, "It's up to me. I have to learn what the Constitution means. I have to elect somebody that will strictly adhere to the Constitution. If he doesn't, I'm going to keep electing him and re-electing him. And if he doesn't, I'm going to vote him out." And until we do that, we will never have the freedoms that our founding fathers intended for us to have.
We will have things like the pesticide legislation that wants to take your ability for discovery and a jury trial. That's part of what that bill would do. And it's in discovery that we found how the Monsanto was colluding with the EPA and the Farm Bureau. And I'm gonna name them. Farm Bureau, if you guys have Farm Bureau insurance, start holding them accountable. They're the #1 organization that was fighting to remove your right to have a right to a jury trial. So pay attention. They have the most members in the state of Tennessee. Sometimes that's hard to hear, but that is the truth. They are a huge lobby in Nashville. So I'd like to close with this, some encouraging information. Sometimes we have to get through the bad stuff to get to the good stuff, but I think there's some hope that we can push through. I think we had some wins, we're gonna get some wins, and I'd like you guys to all mark your calendars because this is the first time that I'm actually announcing this to the public. We have I can't even stand this, I gotta get up and move. We have a MAHA Day on the Hill in Nashville on February 17th. Make America healthy again, make Tennessee healthy again. We will have a public side. We also have a legislative education portion of it, and there will also be MAHA-friendly food. If you guys have businesses, there's several ways to get involved. If you guys want to get involved, whether you have something with a business, and we can talk to you about possibly serving some lunch portions, we can do that. We can do, there's going to be like a meeting on the Capitol steps. We also have we're going to be educating them on all those 10 things that I talked about. So we want you to make appointments. I can help you with that. But we need you guys to show up. Whether you are left, whether you are right, whether you are in the middle, it doesn't matter. We need to get ourselves healthy again. And I'm conservative myself, but that's the stuff that we need to do. We need to show them that we the people, are the ones that are going to make the change. And they're already asking, how do I get MAHA vote? How do I let people know I'm MAHA? They're depending on people like us from all across the board to get in their business and to show them we, the people, are the ones that are going to make a change. So February 17th, please, word will get out. But like I said, I've not even said this to anybody yet. So February 17th, MAHA Day on the Hill. Let's make our legislators vote to keep us healthy, and let's ourselves keep ourselves healthy so that we don't rely on some of the products that are being made. They will end up being forced to take them off because the sales just aren't there. So I hope to see you guys. Come see us at the Firehawk booth and let us know. I'll be back there representing Amy, Tennessee, MAHA Institute, and Firehawk. So all three labels, but we'd love to get you hooked up. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.